Patricia, thanks for coming today.
Well, thank you for having me.
You're welcome. You've got some very interesting work experience. The last few years, I think since 2005 up to present day, you've been working with children that have special needs.
Yes.
Let's start off with the position that you were in just now, the one in Chapel Haven. Tell me about that job and what your responsibilities were.
At Chapel Haven, I was a life skills instructor and a teacher's assistant. So during the afternoons, I ran recreational kind of free activity classes such as baking and scrapbooking and the yearbook class. And I also assisted in personal budgeting and financing, where the students would go to the bank and they would have to learn how to budget their weekly and monthly allowance. And then at night I was a life skills instructor, and I managed 2 apartments where the students had to, somebody was a cook, somebody had to clean the bathrooms, the living room, sweep up the hallways, everybody had to make sure their bedrooms were clean. So that was 2 hours in the evening where I was bouncing back and forth between an apartment of 5 students and then another apartment with just 2 students.
Right, so imagine in a position like that you had to be very organized, because obviously you had to get these guys learning these life skills, so the organization must have been quite in-depth.
Yeah, it definitely runs a lot smoother when you're organized, because I would have one apartment cooking while the other apartment was cleaning, therefore I didn't have 2 ovens going at the same time.
That's a very good point. And I love the fact that you've done that, because I think helping special needs kids is fantastic. Going back, before that you worked at a high school as a paraprofessional. Tell me about that.
I was in a high school resource classroom setting, and the students would go on to their regular classes throughout the day. I would sometimes go in, depending on the class, like a chemistry class where there was a lab, and I would sit in back and just take notes. But primarily I was in the resource classroom, where they would come if they needed help editing a paper, or depending on what their IEP stated, how many hours they needed extra help. And I was also there monitoring exams, if they took exams outside of the classroom for more of like a quieter setting.
Okay, and what sort of ages were these kids?
That was a high school, so they were freshmen through senior, so about 14 to 18. Okay.
So again, another position that had quite a lot of responsibility involved, especially in the school system.
Right.
Okay, good. So as well as being certified with Red Cross and a bunch of other great things that you've got on your resume here, tell me why you want to work closely with children, with younger children, because you've obviously been involved with older children until now.
And that's why, because I've worked with older children in the high school and then at Chapel Haven. I did some field work with a 3rd grade classroom, but not as much hands-on experiences, which is what I want. Okay.
And as far as hands-on experience as a nanny goes, you're open to any sort of opportunity to help the kids to learn?
Anything that utilizes their natural abilities and help them develop as a person. Okay,
because I think you'd be fantastic in a situation where kids are just starting to get into the school system, because you have that organization, you've been there, you've been involved, and you understand, even if the child may not be special needs, you understand what it is to be organized in a way that they can very easily understand things and have plans that they can go through the day.
Yes.
Which is very important when you're starting a new routine, and here we get on the school bus, then we get off the school, and so on and so forth. So that stuff's important, which I think is fantastic. Going back, I guess, just a little bit into your personal life, have you had babysitting experience growing up? Tell me a little bit about your family, things like that.
Well, I have a very large Italian family.
Okay.
So I've had numerous experience, with cousins who've had babies and cousins, and I have 3 younger brothers. Okay. I have 15 first cousins.
Oh my gosh.
So I have a lot of family experience with kids, and now we have like an Easter egg hunt coming up, and I take cousins to the library just because I go to the library personally, and we go to Bishop's and we do apple picking, and then we come back and make apple pie. So I do a lot of like fun activities.
Yeah, that does sound a lot of fun. That's great. I think you've got the basics of what it is to care for children. The term nanny is very usually used because there's so many other ways that you can bring care to children in different aspects, like you have. So I think that's great. Patricia, thanks very much for coming.
Thank you for having me.
You're welcome.